If I lost all my videos and I had to start over from zero, but I needed 3 months worth of content quickly, this is exactly how I would do it. Not with the most complex process or the most super flashy edits, but something that's simple, repeatable, and effective. Most of you aren't struggling because you don't care about content. It's because every time you sit down to create, it feels like you're starting from a blank page. What do I say on video? How often should I post? How do I even say it and present it? Is this video even good? It can be overwhelming, and a lot of times it can cause you to not even create content, to not even do videos. But I want to share with you the most simple and effective process that I use personally and with clients to create value oriented videos with a repeatable, sustainable process that works every single time. So, in this video, I'm going to walk you through my 7 step process that can take you from 0 to 3 months worth of content, even if you feel like you're starting from scratch, even if you feel like you're an absolute beginner. And by the end of this video, you will know what to talk about, how to structure it, how to record it, and how to turn it into 90 days worth of content that's ready to post that you can start using right away. If we zoom out all the way, we want to look at the big picture. What are we trying to create videos for? If we're starting at zero, the main focus of creating videos should be to create authority, to create a sense of expertise. Your prospective patients, the people we want to watch these videos, will be able to see that you have knowledge in a certain area, that you have expertise where they lack, that you have the solutions to their problems. That is our primary focus with this type of videos. I do want to take a second and just note that there are many different types of videos. They span many different use cases, are there for many different places on this patient journey. Everything from building the initial rapport, answering someone's questions, sharing your expertise, all the way to really helping existing patients get more out of their work with you. Onboarding new patients, training new hires to your team. There's so many different use cases for video. That's why I refer to it as a video system. Now, for the sake of these videos, what we are talking about today, if we're starting at zero, the best place to start is to build that initial library of video assets, what I call value videos. If someone is searching the answers to their question, if they're seeking the solution to their problem, and you are the person who has what they need, having a library of videos that become an asset to that person is the best place to build that foundation. It builds the rapport, it builds your connection, it establishes you as the expert they are seeking, and from that, we can start to layer on other use cases of video. So, the best place that I have found to start is determining your primary pillars, your core pillars. Essentially, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be associated with? Let's say you run a men's health clinic. Maybe one of those primary pillars, maybe one of those core pillars is TRT. Maybe another one is quality of life. Maybe another is what does the future of medicine look like? But these are all things that you're picking that you could talk on at length with your expertise, with your passions, what you care about, what you're truly qualified to speak on, but also it's relevant to the person you're serving. It's relevant to your ideal patients. These are the things, again, we want to be most known for. So if it's a hub and spoke model or kind of this central focus expounded upon, a great place to start is just to take your core pillars and kind of marry that up against your FAQs. What are the questions you're fielding all the time? That's proven demand. That's a signal that shows you people are coming to you with these questions on a repeatable, recurring basis. Maybe it makes sense to create a video asset for them to answer them once and for all, but also if that's a common question you're fielding, there are many other people with that same question. Great assets to create, an incredible place to start. From there, if we start to zoom out a little bit, if you think about these core pillars as kind of the central piece to then multiple extrapolated topics and questions, if it's TRT, for example, starting with the what if questions. What if I don't take enough? What if I take too much? Many different questions in that line of the concern or the uncertainty of the prospective patient not knowing what you know. Maybe from there you move to the safety and efficacy. Is TRT safe to take long term? What will this do to my health down the road? Like all the questions that someone might have when they're not yet familiar with this area of topics. But now that you have this framework, it should make it incredibly simple for you to come up with more than enough topics, questions, and themes to create all of your videos. So, step one of the framework is you pick your core pillars. What are the things you want to be known for? What are those main 3 to 5 core areas of focus that you're going to have that you want to be most known for? Step two is taking those core pillars and listing out your topics, your themes, your speaking points, essentially independent pieces of content, videos that are going to be married up to those core pillars. And then step three is putting yourself into your content. This is important. And honestly, it's a step that most people just skip altogether if they even consider it at all. There's a ton of noise. And frankly, from someone who's in this space, I see it all the time. It just feels regurgitated. It feels like everything looks and sounds the same. You are a person. You have unique qualities and interests and your likes and your dislikes. And what makes you you as a human is ultimately going to be what attracts the right patients and maybe repels the wrong patient. So I cannot encourage you enough. Put your own personality into your content. Yes, these videos in particular are primarily suited to be value oriented. They are solving problems and answering questions, but that does not mean that you have to remove yourself entirely from the process. If you're robotic in how you present to camera, if you're lifeless and dull and stale, overly stoic, cold, those aren't things that are going to attract someone, especially in the space you operate in healthcare, in providing someone with something that is going to need trust. They need that rapport if they're going to choose you as their provider. So, a simple place to start when you're determining your style and your voice, putting yourself into your content, is thinking about your communication style. Are you someone who is very to the point? You're very concise, you're very blunt, very on the nose. Everything you say is very specific, it's tight, and you could easily give question, answer, problem, solution. You could just run down the list without needing a ton of explanation or a lot of runway to prove your point. You can just be very, very intentional, laser specific with how you communicate. If that is you, speak that way. Create your content that way. Bite sized value, deep context without needing a lot of words to do it. Or if your conversation style is a little bit more story based, maybe you like to let things breathe a little bit. Maybe you like to share some personal experiences of how you came to know the thing you're sharing. This is my preference. This is how I find myself communicating. But if that's you, don't try to force yourself into the other box of collapsing down the way you like to communicate. There is an audience for different communication styles and types. Yes, I know at the end of the day, we're competing for attention on the internet, but don't try to be someone you're not. Don't try to suppress all of the things that make you uniquely you in order to just earn someone else's attention. It's an unhealthy route to take, and ultimately it does make your content less authentic and it makes it less you. Eventually, you will despise the process of creating videos. Don't do that. So if you know your communication style, it would help you with preparation as well. So another thing people often neglect, do I want to have bullet points listed out? I have my bullet points. I don't like reading from a script. Wherever you fit in that, the best thing I can say, the most encouraging takeaway I can give you is just make sure it is true to you and it is intended for the right person. Those are the best guardrails I could say. A lot of this is subjective, but in terms of making it feel like it's right, just keep it within those parameters. Next is the recording process. So Riverside has been the most simple to use program that I have found. I've used a few, I haven't used them all, but from the ones I have used, Riverside by far and away has been the most simple, all in one place tool that I found to create these video assets with this particular setup. So it's primarily made for video podcasts, but even if you're not creating a podcast, all of these tools are very useful for this type of video content. Let me show you how. So when you open your Riverside Studio, you want to make sure that you select host. You can determine if you're using headphones or not. And then before you jump in, you want to make sure that all of your peripheral components are being recognized and they're functioning properly. So my camera is running through what's called a capture card. So it just takes the HDMI cable, converts it to a USB-C cable that plugs into my computer. So it allows the camera to be recognized by the computer as a webcam option. Next, just making sure that your audio source, in this case, I used my Rode Pod mic when I record these types of videos. I just make sure that it is turned on and that it is being recognized by the camera. So I run mine through what we consider an audio interface. So this is where my XLR inputs that are from the actual microphone run through the audio interface. With the USB-C cable, I attach the audio interface, which allows the microphone to be monitored, adjusted. It gives me more control over the audio settings. So once that's powered on, this is a Zoom PodTrack P4. So once that is powered on and recognized by the computer, in my drop-down menu, it gives me the option for the Zoom PodTrack P4. So I can then go and select Zoom P4 audio as my audio source, and that allows this microphone to be recognized by the computer, which becomes my audio source. If you're using speakers or headphones or whatever your speaker source needs to be, and then it's as simple as you join the studio. Once you're in the studio, one thing I recommend is turn on the echo cancellation option. If you're in a room that isn't sound treated, any ambient noises, any echoes bouncing from the walls, these microphones have they're pretty sensitive, and they've been known to pick up a lot of those. Even with pickup patterns that are directional, it does pick up some of those distracting noises, some of the echoes. So I always turn that on. And then, pretty much everything else is straightforward. You can leave your video input settings. If you don't need to change your transcription, leave all the language settings the same. I try not to turn on too many of these AI functions in recording. If I want to do more in post, in editing, I can. But the noise reduction and the echo reduction, I don't love the two of them both turned on. So once you have the settings to your liking, it's as simple as clicking record down here on the bottom of the screen. It tells you when it's recording. You can see the count timer. You can see the record button. You can see that the actual recording is taking place. So this is where you've got your list of questions, you've got your topics, you've got your themes all listed out. You're just going to work through them one at a time. A couple of things to be mindful of when you're in Riverside. You can see the uploading percentage up here. Since Riverside is a platform that uploads to the device itself, so if there's any quality loss, say in your Wi-Fi connection, it is still going to upload your audio and your video files to essentially the cloud within your Riverside account. So if you're on Zoom, for example, or most other video conferencing platforms, any quality interruption is going to dramatically impact the quality of your video and your audio. Whereas Riverside, one of the main reasons I like this platform is it maintains the highest quality video and audio because it is saving it to your device, or to your cloud account within Riverside. So the note would be, just make sure when you finish your recording that it has completely finished uploading so you can get your files. But as you're recording, you can monitor, you can see the audio input here. Obviously, you can clearly see the video feed. You're just keeping an eye on those things. You don't have to be obsessive over them, but if for whatever reason you're talking and you're not seeing any audio coming through, make sure you're not muted, make sure your input is correct. But you can, at a glance, you can see that these things are working well. So a simple way to begin each of the videos, you've got your topics listed out and you've got them in the form of a question. So what if I'm taking too much testosterone, right? You could start the video with that question. Just very on the nose, very specific. Are you worried you might be taking too high of a dose of your TRT? Are you worried that you might be taking too much testosterone? And then you get into the answer. Then you get into the meat of it, the context of it. So make sure with each one, you're not just jumping into the answer. You're going to need that hook when you're creating the video. You're going to need effectively telling the preferred audience if that video is for them or not. So just a simple tip, create the hook by framing the question that's built on that topic. And it should be really easy if we've sourced these topics from questions that we get often in your clinic, and or looking at your core pillars to then determine those extrapolated questions that are commonly built around those core pillars. So just make sure when you begin each of these topics, it's one long recording in Riverside, but you're thinking about the edit. Each topic is going to be its own individual video. So if the first one is about what if I'm taking too much testosterone? What happens if I think my TRT dose is too high? We need to run through the list of all those topics. So since we're running through this list of 30 plus topics, those will then become 30 plus videos. The way we do that is through editing. Let's talk about the editing. So for the sake of this video, since my recording was just showing you the process and I did not run through 30 plus topics, I'm going to show you with some client videos the actual editing process. So this is Juan. If you don't know Juan, he's a good dude. Really enjoy working with him. He's got a clinic in Florida. He did a great job. This was our first recording. This was the first time we recorded content. I think he did an excellent job. He was sincere in his presentation. He's knowledgeable. All I did was prompt him with the topics and the questions, just like you would be sourcing on your own. And we just worked through them one at a time. So we'll jump in here. Basically, when you finish your recording, there's going to be one kind of master file. It's going to be the entirety of the recording, it's going to be one long video. From that, you can edit what will become your independent videos, your short form. So for the sake of this, I don't need myself in this batch of videos. This isn't a back and forth podcast with dialogue. It's just one. So I go and first thing I do is I mute my track. That won't be relevant to you unless you have someone feeding you questions like I do for the clients. But if it's just you, it'll pretty much start out like this. It'll just be your recording. The other thing I like about Riverside is it makes it very easy to navigate. Like this is all transcription from our conversation. I can go in and read it, line by line and look at, okay, when Juan was speaking, what parts do I want to record? What parts do I want to keep? What parts do I want to cut? But another way to do it is to they curate the topics and themes based off of the transcription. So they automatically make this so incredibly simple. So let's talk about, TRT versus test boosters. That was one of the questions I had Juan answer. What I do is I highlight the entire section. I create a new edit. From that new edit, I rename it. I go ahead and title it whatever it's called. I've already done this edit, so I'm just going to name it something different. We're going to say copy of TRT versus test boosters. Open that edit up. And if this is intended to go on social, this is intended to be short form content, we can change the aspect ratio. So we don't need it to be YouTube format. We want it to be shorts and reels and TikTok format. So it automatically, you can see, it immediately crops it in and changes the aspect ratio. The next thing I do is I don't love these default captions. So I've got a list of the ones that I like. Pick your brand colors, pick your font preference. I like this bold, it's highlighted. This color is used in Juan's logo in his branding. And placement, be mindful of placement. If it's too low, it's going to get covered up by some of the function buttons inside of the different apps. Your safe zone is almost just like the inner, 60% of the frame is usually safe for most platforms. I kind of put it, right, if he's got his hands kind of consistently placed near his lap, I'll put it right at the creases of the elbows. Seems to be a pretty safe zone. It's not covering his face, and it's also not kind of in an odd placement. All right, so one thing I really like about Riverside, especially if you're a beginner and don't have a ton of experience with editing, is it has these AI tools built in. So we've created the video. This is TRT versus testosterone boosters. We've already gotten the topic and question ironed out, but it still needs some polish. We've added the captions. We formatted it in the right aspect ratio, but it needs a little bit of cleanup. So I go in and I click remove pauses and remove filler words, and immediately it takes out all of the different points within this video, um, that, especially for short form, that we just really want to tighten. And that saves you a huge step. You can see all the little cuts down here. You're not having to go in and do those independently. It does it for you. The next thing I work through is just making sure that the captions and the transcription, that there's no spelling errors. Sometimes if you're talking about names of people, medications, things that are, maybe difficult spelling, you want to go in and just double check those. It gets it right most of the time. It does actually a pretty good job compared to some of the other tools I've used, but you can just play it through. You can look for any other things that you might want to tweak or change, but for the most part, it's done. For what we are looking for at this point of creating your video library, you remove the pauses, remove the filler words, you're double checking any spelling errors in the captions. These videos are pretty much complete once you've done that. And you would do this for each of the topics. So it took us like 2 minutes to go through and create this entire video. The recording itself, let's say you spend the full hour just running through your list of topics and questions. And then you can go in and 2 to 5 minutes edit each of those videos. When you're finished with it, you go over to export. You can choose the quality that you'd like to export it in. Obviously, remove the watermark. I don't adjust, like I mentioned, I don't like competing AI tools. If I've done remove the echo in the recording, if it sounds strange in your editing, if it still sounds like there's a lot of room noise or kind of distortion, you can remove background noise. Like I said, I don't like to do both. Outside of that, the video is ready. Export the video. You can keep editing, go back to your main timeline, which was here, work to your next topic. Oh, long-term safety of TRT. We do the same process there. It's as simple as that. That is the fastest, most effective way that I have found to really knock out a lot of videos in a short amount of time. So it's a pretty easy to use platform. Like I said, I've used others. This one is the one that I feel is most beginner friendly. You can follow these steps, you can follow this process, and create 3 months worth of content in a very short time. So now that your videos are edited and they're ready to be used, the next step is distribution, actually posting them and using them. So for most of these videos, since they are short form, vertical orientation, they're going to be best for social media, for Reels, for Shorts, for TikTok, for whatever platform you're on, whatever your primary and secondary platforms are, that's where they should live. Another thing to consider when you're using these videos is if you're getting a lot of questions, say you're in local community groups and people are asking questions and you've created videos that answer those questions, don't just go in and answer it in text form. Put a link to your video because that person can watch your video, get the answer to that question, but then they're also in your ecosystem. That one answer could then answer many other questions they may have. And it's a great way to continue to send people to your library of assets that you've created. That is true for people that reach out to you. If these are your FAQs plus other very common questions, it's highly likely that you'll have the opportunity to take inbound calls and leads and point them in the direction of this library of assets that you've created. So those are great use cases, great for distribution. I would strongly encourage you put them on YouTube as shorts. It's a very search-based platform. So people are actively looking up the answers to these questions, whereas a lot of your social medias are interest-based platforms. And both of them, if you're using them, they work in kind of a complementary fashion to one another. And then the final step, step 7, is listen. Listen to feedback. Are you getting any DMs about how helpful that video that you posted was to someone? They've had this question for a long time. They've been uncertain for a long time, but your video helped to clarify it. It made it feel so much simpler and less intimidating. And maybe now they're ready to begin their HRT or TRT journey. Or you're getting emails. Someone has said, hey, I've found your videos to be incredibly helpful. I've been watching them for some time. And maybe you had no idea. Maybe they weren't actively engaging with it or liking it or commenting on it on your post, but they were consuming it. And all the while, they're moving themselves further along this journey and this path of trust and rapport. And they're more likely to do work with you. They're more likely to choose you as their provider. So listen for those things. Those are highly significant signals telling you that the content you're creating is helping, it is working. And then for maybe the videos that aren't getting any feedback, maybe for the videos that over a long enough time horizon, we're not expecting this to be effective overnight, but maybe it's been a couple of months and there's a topic or a theme or a category that just hasn't gotten much response in comparison to some of the others. Maybe adjust and do more videos around the topics that are getting a lot of the feedback. So listen and adjust and then repeat. Then you go back to the beginning because after that 3 months, after that 90-day window has passed, you have a good idea of what videos are working, which ones you could probably replace. And this process, this framework is repeatable. And it should be, by this point, much simpler for you to run through and continue and sustain. So if you're starting from zero and you need to create your content, the way to get 3 months worth of content in the most effective way possible, pick your pillars, turn them into patient questions, choose a style and a delivery and a presentation, communication style that fits you best, record within Riverside, do these simple cleanup edits, export your videos, and then distribute them to your social media platforms, to your YouTube channel. That's it. You should be well on your way to creating great content that serves your practice. If you want a little bit more help mapping out your specific pillars and your specific topics, I would love to help you. If you're still feeling a little bit stuck, this is brand new to you, a little bit overwhelming, I would love to be a resource to you. Please reach out. I'd love to help. Thanks.